Today I want to talk about a topic that one of you requested a few months ago, and I am finally getting to it. Your observation was that Czech seems to have a demonstrative pronoun before a dependent clause, where English has nothing. First of all, this is a great observation. When you are surrounded by Czech, sooner or later you will notice how different some constructions are. If you don't know what I am talking about, I would like to start by giving you an example. Dobrý den, vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. Let's take a look at this simple sentence. Rozuměl jsi mu? Did you understand him? Where mu is in the dative case. Rozuměl jsi mu? Did you understand him? Here it's where it stops. But what about if we want to talk about a situation? Not only did you understand him, but did you understand what he said? How do we deal with that? Well, this is the option for the dependent clause, as one of the viewers was mentioning. Rozuměl jsi tomu, co říkal? Did you understand what he said? And now you might be thinking, okay, this is extra. How do we translate it? We don't. We don't translate it. Literally, it would be, did you understand to what he said? To the thing that he said. In this case, we don't have to use this demonstrative pronoun. We can easily leave it out. Rozuměl jsi, co říkal? And it's completely fine. Rozuměl jsi, co říkal? But we can keep it there. Let's see more examples where we have this similar construction. Let's first take a look at the category where you can leave out those demonstrative pronouns. For example, these verbs. These verbs are typically followed by an object, and that object would be in a different case. Usually there is a preposition too. Let's take the verb vzpomínat si na něco. To remember, to recall something. You can use it in a simple clause. You could say, vzpomínám si na to. I remember it. Or you could say, I remember something that you would express with another clause, another verb. You describe a situation. I remember what he said. Vzpomínám si na to, co říkal. Vzpomínám si na to, co říkal. Vzpomínat si na takes the accusative. So you either have that particular object in the accusative case, or you can also use a demonstrative pronoun. In this case, it would be to plus the rest of the sentence. So, I remember what he said. Vzpomínám si na to, co říkal. You cannot translate this really. I remember that what he said doesn't make sense. So we don't translate it. And also we can leave this one out because it makes sense without it. Vzpomínám si, co říkal. Vzpomínám si, co říkal. The message of the sentence is clear if we leave this out. Pamatovat si na něco is a synonym of this verb. To remember something. It works the same way. Moc dobře si pamatuju na to, jak jsme celý den čekali na letišti. I remember very well how we waited all day at the airport. Moc dobře si pamatuju na to, jak jsme celý den čekali na letišti. And again, we can leave it out. Moc dobře si pamatuju jak, because it's clear. I remember how. In Czech, it's an option to add that object in there. But with these particular verbs, you can put it there, you don't have to. Here is another typical verb. Přemýšlet o něčem. To think about something. Again, you can say you're thinking of something and express this by one single word. You could say přemýšlím o víkendu. I'm thinking about the weekend. Přemýšlet is to think, analyze, to think more deeply. Or you could express this with another clause. Přemýšlím o tom, že pojedu na chatu. I'm thinking of going to the cottage. Literally, I'm thinking that I will go to the cottage. Here we would use also the demonstrative pronoun o tom. This is the locative case. Those of you that know my ebook just in case know that I use these colors to distinguish each case. And again, we can leave it out. Přemýšlím, že pojedu na chatu. Because it makes sense too. Pochybovat o něčem, to doubt something, to have doubts about something. Pochybuju o tom, že si na mě ještě pamatuje. I doubt that he still remembers me. Or we can leave this out. Pochybuju, že si na mě ještě pamatuje. And the last one is similar with the construction that I showed you at the beginning. Also takes the dative. Believe something, believe true something. And the dative, as you know, for the demonstrative pronoun would be tomu. Nechce se mi věřit tomu, že odešel. I can't believe that he left. Literally, I can't believe the fact that he left. So these work in a similar way like the English that helps you connect two clauses. You can have it there and you don't have to. I can't believe he left. I can't believe that he left. This works on the same principle. We don't have to use it. If you use the demonstrative pronouns before the clause, it's more complete. But people use it in spoken Czech and they also use it in written Czech. We could say that it's more likely to be left out in spoken Czech because we want to be quicker, more efficient. At this point, you might be asking, how am I supposed to know this? If there is a demonstrative pronoun or not, and in which case? Well, we have two options. The first one is that you learn the verb, you learn if there is a preposition, and you learn the case. And then you also learn how it is expressed when there is a clause, that it can have the demonstrative pronoun. That's a lot to take. And the second option is to listen to a lot of Czech, read, be surrounded by Czech, and simply absorb what you hear and then start realizing that sooner or later you will be able to understand these phrases more and even use them yourself. It usually takes a little bit to start using these constructions, which are so different from English. But if you hear Czech and you improvise with the language, you will realize that at one point you will actually want to say something like this. In my opinion, it's always good to combine things, to know a little bit about the rule and also be surrounded by the language. But this all depends on you. Let's take a quick look at more important phrases that are very common in Czech conversation. Těšit se na něco, to look forward to something. That is typically followed by the accusative case. Or we can use this demonstrative pronoun in the accusative case and the rest of the sentence, another clause. I could say, těším se na jaro, I'm looking forward to spring. Or I could say, těším se na to, až bude jaro. And I can leave it out. Těším se, až bude jaro. Dávat pozor na něco. Or we can also use si here, dávat si pozor, to be careful about something of my own. Watch out for something, be careful with something. Dávej si pozor na to, aby tě nikdo neviděl. Be careful that no one sees you. And again, we can leave this out. Dávej si pozor, aby tě nikdo neviděl. Záležet na něčem. To be important or to depend on something. Followed by the locative case. Záleží na tom, kdy se vrátím. It depends on when I get back. Or záleží, kdy se vrátím. So we can leave this out. Stávat se or stát se. Something happens. This actually would be the nominative case. We can use the dative that something happens to me, to someone. So you can say, stává se mi to, že zapomínám jména lidí. What happens to me is that I forget people's names. Or you could say, stává se mi, že zapomínám jména lidí. And the last one is something that's very informal. Včera mi volal s tím, že se mu rozbilo auto. He called me yesterday saying his car broke down. So he called me with that, with the information that. But you can hear it in informal Czech. You could say volal mi s problémem. He called me with, like about a problem. Or volal mi s tím, že blah blah blah. And we can also leave this out. Včera mi volal, že se mu rozbilo auto. Now, the good question is, when do we know that we can leave it out? Well, the examples that I showed you here and in the previous slide, those verbs are clear, even without the rest of the sentence. For example, remember the verb rozumět, to understand. You always understand something or someone. There is no other meaning. Or when we have a verb with a preposition, just like pamatovat. It's always pamatovat si na něco, or also without the preposition, but it's still related to memory. You recall something or someone. And here too, těšit se na, to look forward to something. Even when you have it without this, you can imagine that it means to look forward to. So that's why we can leave these parts out, because it has the same meaning. There's no other meaning. You won't be confused. Oh, which meaning is it? Because there is only one. Before I show you more verbs that act differently, let's do an easy exercise. You can see 3 sentences with those phrases that I showed you, and they do not have the demonstrative pronoun. I want you to take a look at those sentences and tell me how they would sound if we wanted to add that demonstrative pronoun. You can pause the video if you want to think about this, or you can also go back in this video to see how these verbs that I'm showing here work. Okay, ready? The first one. I can't believe you called. Nechce se mi věřit, že si zavolal. Věřit takes dative, so we can say nechce se mi věřit tomu, že si zavolal. Perfect. Number 2. Do you remember how we slept in the tent? Do you remember the time we slept in the tent? Pamatuješ si, jak jsme spali ve stanu? Or, pamatovat takes na and the accusative case. Pamatuješ si na to, jak jsme spali ve stanu? And the last one. One time it happened to me that I went to work in slippers. Jednou se mi stalo, že jsem šel do práce v bačkorách. Start takes the nominative case because you say that something happened to you. Jednou se mi stalo to, že jsem šel. Excellent, let's move on. Now, the important thing for you is to remember that these verbs that I'm showing you here, these expressions, are different from the previous ones, because here we have to keep these demonstrative pronouns if we want to continue with another sentence. Jít o něco. Jít o to. This is something when we explain what it concerns. Like, the thing is, it's regarding. Jde o to, že si nepamatuju adresu. We could translate it like this. The thing is that I don't remember the address. Jde o to, že si nepamatuju adresu. We cannot leave it out. Jde, že doesn't make sense. Or vydělávat na něčem. Vydělat, also the perfective one. To make money on something, from something. Nejvíce vydělávají na tom, že si lidé nečtou podmínky. They make the most money from people not reading the terms and conditions. They make the most money on the fact that people don't read terms and conditions. Vydělávají na něčem. They make money from or on. And we have to use this. We cannot leave it out. Just like in English, you cannot say they make money, people not reading. You have to say from. Číst o něčem. To read about something. Četl jsem knihu o tom, jak cestovat po světě. I use the example that my viewer suggested. I read a book about how to travel the world. Četl jsem knihu o tom, jak cestovat po světě. Literally, I read a book about that fact, that thing, how to travel the world. Literally, you cannot translate this. But what you do need is the preposition. Just like in English, you cannot say read, book, how to travel. You have to have this and also the pronoun. Mluvit o tom, to speak about something or about it. Budu mluvit o tom, co jsme zažili v Peru. I will talk about what we experienced in Peru. Budu mluvit o tom, co jsme zažili v Peru. We have to have it there. Or when we say that something like a story is about certain thing, or the book is about certain thing, like for example this phrase from How I Met Your Mother. Tohle je skutečný příběh o tom, jak jsem poznal vaši matku. This is the true story of how I met your mother. And we have to have this here because it wouldn't tell us much if we just keep the verb to be, just like in English. So this might have answered your question, how do you know that you can leave this out or that you have to keep it here? This rule works most of the time when it's a phrase that makes sense without it, because it has technically just one meaning, then you can leave it out because the meaning won't change, it won't be confusing. But if there are verbs such as this, these verbs can mean more things. For example, eat means also to walk, you could just simply walk. But this is a phrase. Also, vydělávat, to make money, you can also say vydělávat z něčeho, which is similar to make money from. Or you can also use no preposition, vydělávat peníze, to earn money, to make money. The same is here, to read about something or for someone, or read something without a preposition, and so on. So here we have to use the preposition because it tells us the relationship, what it is. It changes the meaning. I mentioned the most common phrases, but of course there are more phrases where we can leave out the demonstrative pronoun or where we have to keep it there. If you have any suggestions, any observations, write it to me in the comments. If you would like to master the Czech grammatical cases, you probably know what to do. Consider buying my ebook just in case. And if you are more on the beginner's side, I have a special deal for you. You can get my ebook and also a video course, Čeština na gauči, which comes with another book. You can find out more about this in the description or in my post here in the YouTube community. To je ode mě všechno. Thanks so much for watching and also thank you for this topic. I hope this explanation helped you and also other learners. Thanks for watching, thanks for studying Czech. Uvidíme se příští týden. Ahoj!